Luis Enrique, Mateus Cunha, Rafinha, Ryan, Vinícius Jr, obrigado.
Porra, Ancelotti, eu.
One phone call. That was all it took to shatter the soul of a footballing nation. A king, said to be ready, yet kept away from his throne. An Italian mastermind holding the pen, coldly crossing out his name.
Tiene muchísimos jugadores de talento. Obviamente, en el caso específico de Neymar, obviamente contamos con él. El equipo nacional, Brasil, cuenta con él.
They said it was purely a tactical choice, but in Brazil, this was high treason, a brutally calculated betrayal that could easily end an empire. The dust had barely settled on the latest Brazilian league fixtures, and the streets of Sao Paulo were alive with a familiar. Neymar Jr. was back at Santos. He was playing 90 minutes, he was scoring goals. He was smiling under the warm South American sun. To the millions of devoted fans wearing the iconic yellow jersey, the narrative was perfectly scripted and beautifully absolute. The boy from Mogi das Cruzes had finally exorcised the haunting demons of his brutal knee injury. He was match fit, his touch was as golden as ever, and he was undeniably, perfectly fine. The stage was spectacularly set for a triumphant, emotional return to the Seleção ahead of the 2026 World Cup. The prodigal son was ready to lead the dance one last time. But Carlo Ancelotti, the silent, pragmatic architect of European dynasties, was not interested in comforting fairy tales. Sitting in the sterile, air-conditioned war room of the Brazilian Football Confederation, the Italian manager was looking at a completely different sport. The official press releases would later speak politely of lingering muscle fatigue, of cautious physical evaluations, and of desperately needing players at a strict 100%. But the leaked reality, the whispered truths echoing rapidly through the elite dressing rooms of world football, revealed a much more sinister and brutal narrative. Ancelotti had not left Neymar at home out of medical necessity. He had left him out as a ruthless declaration of absolute authority. Ancelotti's vision for the newly constructed Brazil was forged in the unforgiving, icy fires of modern, high-intensity European football. He meticulously looked at the tracking data, the defensive transition speeds, the grueling press required to win a World Cup in the modern era, and he made a genuinely cold-blooded calculation. The leaked reports confirmed exactly what the romantic fans adamantly refused to believe. Ancelotti demanded a relentless, suffocating physical output from every single man on the pitch, an absolute, unwavering submission to the tactical collective. He viewed a 34-year-old Neymar, regardless of his undeniably divine technical ability, as a systematic liability in a high-pressing machine. The Italian master had boldly concluded that talent without absolute physical supremacy was no longer a luxury Brazil could afford to indulge. He was actively purging the entrenched culture of the untouchable superstar, violently stripping away the blinding aura of reputation, and reducing the nation's greatest modern idol to a mere statistical inadequacy. The backlash was immediate, deafening, and violently emotional. It was a terrifying seismic shockwave that completely transcended sports, dominating television screens and dinner tables from the crowded favelas of Rio to the elite political corridors of Brasilia. The Brazilian media erupted in a fiery rage, painting the foreign manager as a cold, calculating mercenary who fundamentally misunderstood the sacred geometry of the Brazilian footballing soul. And then, the heavyweights of history forcefully stepped into the chaotic arena. The legendary figures who had built the glittering myth of the five-time world champions, the revered icons of the 2002 generation, unleashed a devastating barrage of public fury. They aggressively took to global broadcasts and social media platforms, their voices dripping with righteous, uncontainable indignation. They criticized Ancelotti with venomous disbelief, arguing passionately that a player of Neymar's transcendent, generational genius absolutely does not need to press like a common foot soldier. They screamed that a true Brazilian number 10 only needs a fleeting, magical moment, a single breathtaking touch in the final third, to instantaneously alter the destiny of a match. To blatantly leave a perfectly healthy Neymar out of the squad was not just a tactical miscalculation. To these legends, it was a supreme act of European arrogance. It was a blatant, unforgivable disrespect to the very concept of jogo bonito, an irreversible insult to the artistic heritage of the entire nation. The immense pressure began to violently suffocate the Italian manager from all sides. The initial criticism rapidly evolved into a full-blown national crisis, terrifyingly reaching all the way to the highest office in the country, transforming a simple squad selection into a highly volatile matter of geopolitical pride. The very fans who had once begged on their knees for Ancelotti's arrival were now angrily burning his decisions in effigy. The atmosphere around the national team training camp grew incredibly toxic, transforming into a fragile powder keg of bitter resentment and fractured loyalties. Ancelotti found himself entirely isolated in the terrifying eye of a merciless storm, his famous arched eyebrow the only visible shield against the raging fury of 200 million broken hearts. He stared intensely at his tactical board, the deafening, hostile roar of the Brazilian public echoing violently through the walls, knowing perfectly well that his ruthless refusal to call up the king had just permanently lit the fuse on an explosive civil war. The first test of this sterilized era arrived under the floodlights of the Maracana, a sacred coliseum that felt more like a hostile courtroom. The yellow jerseys flooded the stands, but the atmosphere was tense, devoid of the usual samba rhythms. Banners bearing the number 10 were held aloft like defiant standards of a rebellion. Down on the pitch, Ancelotti's soldiers executed his European blueprint with mechanical obedience. They pressed and covered every blade of grass with synchronized efficiency. But as the minutes ticked away against a stubborn opponent, the glaring absence of their banished maestro became an overwhelming weight. The passing was crisp but entirely predictable. The movement was fast but soulless. It was in the 70th minute, amidst a grinding stalemate, that the defining realization struck the nation. The Maracana erupted in deafening, heartbroken whistles. They were winning the tactical battle and controlling statistics, but losing their identity. Ancelotti stood motionless on the touchline, watching his flawless system suffocate the opponent, but also suffocating the spirit of his team. When the final whistle blew on a gritty, uninspiring victory, there were no celebrations, only a cold silence. They had won the match, but the soul of the Seleção felt defeated. This hollow victory sealed the emotional consequences of Ancelotti's experiment and cemented Neymar's enduring legacy. Stripped of his presence, the public suddenly understood the impossible burden he carried for a decade. He was the final connection to a golden era of romanticism swallowed by tactical dogma. Neymar represented the beautiful imperfection of pure talent, a brilliant spark of street football in a world dominated by athletic machines. Ancelotti may have been justified in his pursuit of modern efficiency, but his decision exposed a tragic truth. A Brazil without its chief artist is just another football team, stripped of its divine right to entertain. The Italian architect had built a fortress to survive the modern game, but he had forever silenced the song of the Brazilian 10. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive into Ancelotti's reign and Neymar's legacy. If you enjoyed this cinematic journey, please hit subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Was Ancelotti right, or did he destroy the soul of Brazil? Stay tuned, because next we dissect the final, heart-stopping 5 seconds of Zinedine Zidane's legendary career. See you there.